Welcome, everyone. Um, we will be going through some things. How many first timers are here? Anyone? Welcome. You probably are not familiar with what we do, and we'll show you the website. But we're recording this on video, so if something doesn't quite make sense, you can go back and look at the video and review it. Hopefully, we'll put some other tips also. And I have to tell you, what we're going to do today is just the beginning, the basics. But hopefully at the end of the presentation, you will know enough, as we say, to become dangerous in searching on a Miami Valley website to find whether it is or is not Cambridge. We had some people up front earlier and said, is this Cambridge? Is this Cambridge? So we'll find out. Everyone comfortable? We got them turned the air conditioner on. Everyone can hear. So I am actually going to sit down up here in the front. You don't need to watch me. What I'm doing on the screen will be displayed up on the screen.
And again, if you have a question, raise your hand.
Yep.
Don't just shout out, please.
If someone is trying to follow along but you become hopelessly lost, raise your hand, and one of our Miami Valley Study Club members will come around and assist you. We all good? All right. Here we go. So what I would like to do, let's just start from the beginning. Whoops, we don't want that. See, I'm up here and I'm supposed to know what I'm doing and click the wrong thing. Is go to the Miami Valley website. So how do you think we could get there? www.mvsg.org. And voila, there we are. You know we're on the website because we have a picture of a monkey right on the front, which is what are you guys doing? The right-hand side. We like to have fun. I already was being chastised to be nice this evening. I'm trying to be. All right. So what do we have on our website? Well, the thing that a lot of you may not be aware of is we have a blog. And why would you want to read that? Anyone? I'll be asking test questions periodically. The blog is a place for you to keep up to date with what we've put on recently. So, for example, this morning, Dave Rankin put on there that we're doing Cambridge glass advertisements and articles from China Glass and Lamps from the very modern magazines 1923 to 1929. So there is a lot of Cambridge glass information on there. So we will use the blog to inform you that we've just put 500 more new images or have a new feature or something else. So you might want to check out the blog periodically. Questions on that? Moving on then, Cambridge Glass Educational and Hollywood Videos. If you click on that, you will find all kinds of videos, notably Bring and Brag sessions from several years, Cambridge Glass Collectors Meeting videos. So for example, if you couldn't view Marty DeGraff's wonderful presentation on perfumes, it's there for you to view. And we don't care what you wear when you're viewing it or what time of day it is, we'll never know. There's also Hollywood videos, and we're going to be expanding this soon with some YouTube short clips, educational, like how do you tell the difference in swans, or what's the difference between a type 1 and type 2 swan. Questions on that? See, this is easy. Trademarks. If you ever wanted to know what time period different trademarks were, if anyone has anything with the Rose Point trademark, I'd be interested. So that probably tells you it's not easy to find. And you probably learned something on any little link you post to. We're going to be spending some time on the next one, so I'm not going to pull it up now, but that's where the glass photo albums reside. So there are thousands of things from catalogs and actually photographs that we will be able to search through. Then if you click on the monkey, you will go to the auction website. Will and Bev, raise your hand. They're the chairs of the auction committee. So you can search all of the auctions from last year's to 2013 and see what was offered. And also, after the auction, we update those with the prices. So you can search on this. So for example, if you collect Rose Point or Caprice, you could search for Caprice. And if you want a specific piece, you could search for a Caprice spittoon, which we'll talk about later, may or may not be a good word, and find out what the pricing was, at least at the auction. Questions? Okay. Moving right along, Cambridge glass colors. So if we click on that, you can see in a lot of cases we put years. In some cases we may not know exactly the year of production, but we like to group things together that may be confusing, like Aurora, Bluebell, Moonlight, Night Blue, Ritz Blue, Royal Blue, and just plain old blue, which a lot of us call 1903 blue, but you can call it actually whatever you want, and we'll sort it out. Now, with that, colors is also treatments, which we won't get into today. Can anyone name a treatment? What was it? Mm-hmm. Carnival. Yeah, those would be the big ones. And instead of lugging around all your crystal balls, we have a link right here that will go to all of the crystal balls that were ever edited that are not in the current year. Because this is a member feature that if you want your electronic crystal ball, you get it thanks to Freeman Moore, editor. Freeman, raise your hand. He sends that link out, and we delay it because we don't want non-members to have that current information, but it goes all the way back to the beginning. And you can also search the crystal ball articles. So click on that search link. Then this will come up, and type in what you want to search for. And if it was ever in the crystal ball, it will come up. Okay? Questions on that? Yes. If it appears as a word in the crystal ball, you can search for that. Yep. Next, Cambridge glass mechanical and design patents. I'm sorry, another question. Yes. No. You can go into a certain year, but I tend not to do that. The question was on the auction page, can you search on the whole list? And yes, all years together. And let's say you just wanted to search for ebony, you can do that, or Rose Point, or Caprice, or whatever it is. Yes, you can search for everything that was on the auction that we have the years for. Okay. Anything else? Great questions. Remind me if I forget to repeat the question, because not everyone can hear. All of the patent information is here. Then the Cambridge glass private mold listing. Now, I realize not a lot of you say, I'd really like to be able to read all the private molds, because that would probably put me to sleep in like 3 seconds. But if you are a researcher, and trust me, we have some pretty devoted researchers, so you don't have to come into the museum to do a lot of this research. You can go right online. Say, I have a DeVille bottle, or I have something else that was done, you can search through the mold list and see what it was. And the last thing that Dave has been spending a lot of time on, in fact, he was late in getting to the presentation. I'm just kidding, Dave, because he was updating 1929? Yep, 1929 and making it available to you. And there is a lot of good information. So, for example, you see all the red news down here at the bottom. So those were just recently added. A lot of this stuff members have driven halfway across the country in the middle of snowstorms and blizzards and taken photos of pages, and it's a wonderful thing that we have dedicated members. Questions on that? Okay. So, I came here to learn how to search or do a digital safari. Probably about time to get into that. Okay. So, go to the home page and click on my, Cambridge Glass Photo Albums. What's that say? Over 27,000 unique images. That's pretty amazing. I remember when we started this project, it was a pretty big milestone to get 1,000, and then we just kept going from there. So I have to admit, unless you're a pretty serious researcher, you come to this page and you're probably going to be overwhelmed, because I don't know if I have a single item or short line, and I don't know if it was in 1921 or 1958, but there's a lot of images there. That might be a good place to start. Thank you. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay. That's probably as good as I can do. So, what we're going to show you tonight, this afternoon, question?
I was just curious, like, if you kind of knew what you were looking for, like maybe I knew an etching I was looking for. Is there a search for this
Yep.
page?
We will show you that in just a second. Hopefully it'll become crystal clear. What we would really like to get you familiar with is clicking on this little link on the upper right that says search. Okay? So if we click there, let's start easy so all of our members here can follow along. Let's search for dog. D-O-G. We like to keep it simple because some people, not to mention names, no, I'm being facetious. So if I search for dog and then hit enter, I have how many pages of dogs? 2. Not bad, right? We can handle that. But you can see that all of my dogs aren't glass. They might be decorates, in the case of 3 Canny Scots. Scotty, why is that up there? Fox hunt scene. It has dogs in it. So someone has said, there's dogs in there, I'll put a search code of dog. Did anyone know Cambridge made a dog shaker? So sometimes you learn things as you go through this. Shut up, Richie. No. Welcome. Here we have Scotty Dog bookends that are on the table tonight, and dog bottles, but what's missing? Yeah, the Pencil Dog, Bridgehound. So sometimes if we use a simple search, we don't get what we want. We'll come back to that. So let's try another search since that was so exciting. Guess what's next? Cat. Very good. You guys are outstanding. There you go. Cat. Now you can see we have 4 pages of cats, so it becomes a little more difficult. And some of them sure don't look like cats to me. So catalog will pop up. Desiccating jar will come up. And if we search through this, we can see we have the Northwestern Wildcats, the Cincinnati Bearcats, And that's the last page. Oh, there we have some cats, the cat bottle. So our searches perhaps could be a little bit better. Now, let's try another three-lettered word. How about owl? O-W-L. That ought to be easy, right? Yeah, someone's ahead of the curve here. So if we search for owl, we come up with everything that has the letters O-W-L. Oh, 137 pages. I actually did this. So I'm going to find owl. I said, oh, that probably wasn't a good search. But I always see some things that we didn't see before. For example, this number 30 base for bowls. So occasionally you learn some off things. I'm going to show you a much easier way to find bowls here in a second. Okay, let's do one more of these, and then we're going to go to a different way.
So there's no easy way to find the owl?
There is.
There is? Okay.
Funny you should ask. Stay tuned. How about we're going to go more letters now. How about creamer? That should be easy, right? Because Cambridge made a lot of creamers. So let's search for creamer. How many did we get? None. Why? Because Cambridge calls it cream. So sometimes the language from 1910 or 1920 changed to 1917. So we have all kinds of words that are in a catalog that we perhaps are not familiar with unless you sleep with the Cambridge catalogs under your pillow like I do. Get that osmosis knowledge. So sometimes if you get stumped like this, for example, if you searched for sugars with an S on the end, you come up with 0. But if you search for sugar, then you'll find some. Everyone great? Good so far? Okay. Have you learned anything yet? Okay. Now we're going to take it to the next level. I'm going to show you how to do this easier. You ready? All right. Go back to the home page where we click the search button. And what we're going to do, wow, look at this. Under category, identification aids. Then we have decorations, colors, and general lines and shapes. Let's start with general lines and shapes. So if we click on that link, we will come to this page, which has stemware, full shape items. How many of you have ever tried to find a stem, but you couldn't? You look through all the catalogs, and you still can't find that stem. It's frustrating, I know. So if you click on this link, every stem that Cambridge made is there. Also, along with that, we have stemware stems and bowls. So you can, if you just know what the stem looks like, you can get the associated bowl and so forth. But the thing we want to discover first is general shapes. So let's click on general shapes. Wow, what's the very first thing we see? Animals. So what David has done is created categories, and then we've gone through and put search codes in on everything. So if we click on animals, oops, sorry, I clicked on the butterfly, where it says view items, we have what, 5 pages of animals? Now, the key thing to remember is that in these categories, with one exception, this will be a representative one piece of everything that's in the catalog. If you search, for example, number 1, small moth or butterfly, more will pop up. We'll have actual photographs and things like that. So if you find what it is, which is half the battle, right? Or maybe more than half, then you can search for that particular thing now that you know the catalog number or what the real name is. So we have moths, butterflies, birds, flower holders. The question is whether people or animals. Some are. Swans, punch bowl. A lot of people call this bird figure the blue jay, right? That's not the official Cambridge name. We had a lot of birds, all the way up to number 13 bird. In fact, there may be even more than that. Yeah, any of you know about the frog? So there's one. Squirrel. Yep. Different butterflies. Different flower centers. Turtle, flower block, elephant. So there are many, many possibilities for animals. So I know you're thinking, well, why didn't we go there in the first place? Sometimes we have to do it the difficult way before we get there. So let's spend a moment and look through these. So animals, aquaria, I'm not going to pull them all up. Ashtrays, banana split, that'd be good about now. Baskets. Now you can see baskets is kind of unique because we made it even easier. We have a link for single handle baskets, a link for two handle baskets, and a link for no handle baskets.
Hey, Larry, show them if you click on a photo what happens.
If you
How it
click on the
enlarges.
photo, you will get an enlarged version of that icon, plus you can click from there. So for some of you that have phones or smaller screens, you may be able to see that a little bit easier. And if you click on this link, it's the thumbnail, it takes you back to where you are. And I forgot to mention one thing. You do not ever need to log in anywhere on this website. That's for administrator use. Questions so far? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Real quick, you made a comment that you could pull up all the butterflies. Can you do that from here? You said you could pull up all the butterflies.
Yep.
Can you do that from this page?
So, no. What we would do is, now that we know it's called a butterfly, is go to the search link and type in butterfly and search for that. Okay? And you can see you get some unusual things that may pop up. So, for example, if you just collected animals, now you could collect etchings or decorates or other things that have butterflies on them as well. So this gives you more possibilities to search for. Okay? Bookends, bottles, birdcage accessories, those are pretty popular this year. Now, with candelabrum and candlesticks, we left those separate. 1 light, 2 light, 3 light, or more. What's the difference between a candelabrum and a candlestick? Candelabrum has usually a beau bâche or beau bâche with prisms. Candlestick does not. So if you have something and say, I don't know if it's a candlestick or candelabrum, that would be a clue. And is there only one candlestick that has more than 3? The Caprice 5 light's the only one I can think of. Yeah. Candy boxes. Cambridge made very few candy boxes, only like a bazillion, which is maddening if you're a Rose Point collector, because they put Rose Point on every one of them. Candy jars, not to be confused with a candy box. Tall celery, cheese and crackers, cheese preservers, cigarette boxes. You can see this goes on and on and on. One of the new things we just added recently was display signs, which I thought was kind of neat because it shows you the different ones, like for Caprice or Corinth or whatever it is. Plus, here is the nice little easel for the advertising tray sign, which is right here. I'm not sure how much these little easels are worth, but I would probably guess a substantial amount. Cambridge glass, pyramid, advertising signs, etc. So it's a nice place to see everything that might be available. What makes an Epern? This little Epern arm with either drop bases or some other, could have boubache or not. Figureals, which is kind of like animals except it's people. Flower frogs, flower holders, because what did Cambridge call these? Flower figures normally, but the thing about Cambridge, which those of us that are exact people, some of us say anal, it's maddening because they don't call everything the same. They change. And a lot of that is because of marketing. What's the hot word for the year? Gravy boats, ice buckets, and pails. Who would collect those, Ralph? Jars, jugs, kitchenware, which is kind of a neat category. Lamps, shades, and lighting parts. There's a lot of stuff in there that a lot of you probably are not familiar with. Marmalades, nappies, we don't call them nappies anymore, right? Nut dish, almond, cruets, perfumes and colognes, photographers' supplies, plates. Again, we separated it by size. Now, the other maddening thing about Cambridge, let's say I have a 10-inch plate. What diameter is it really? It depends. Could be 10, could be less than 10, could be more than 10. Just depends on how the day was. On Monday morning after a big weekend, or who knows. So just because you don't find your 10-inch plate, and the plate's over 10, well, actually we do this, 6 to 10. Let's say you can't find it on 6 to 10. Try the next category, over 10. It might possibly be in there. Questions? Oh, you guys are either paying attention or falling asleep. Samovars, smoker's items, spoon holders. We all have our spoon holder in the middle of the table, right? With the spoons in, with the fresh cream, and yep, just like they did back in 1920. Tobacco jars, right? Toothpicks, toys, trays, tubs, tumblers. Again, we separate it by capacity. So this is always the fun trick, right? Get the measuring cup out and see how many ounces it holds, which may or may not be correct. Yes. And again, we can't assume that just because it holds 1 ounce, that it's a cordial. There's lots of other things like Pou Cafés and other brandies and other things. Bases, again, we separate by size. So hopefully, if you go to what category are we in again? General shapes. You will be able to identify what
every single thing that Cambridge ever made, right?
Yep. And by the way, if you find a mistake or a misspelled word or something, please, no, seriously, please. Grant's laughing. He does this, and we love him for it. We really do. Please let us know. Because, if we're doing 100 or so of these at a time, we get kind of glazed over and lose attention for a second. So I'd like to say it's mistake-free, but I know better. We do the best we can. The other thing that you might be interested in is searching for near cut, and all of it is under near cut arrow general shapes, and we'll do that in a second. Then other general shapes and pressed glassware stems, which might be confusing, but these are the stems like on tall comports, all those kind of things, so you can see what the different variants are. Okay? Now, let's go back to the album list. I might have to reload here. Let's go back to there. Let me show you the other two things. Decorations, which is going to help a lot of you out. For any of you that collect rock crystal, this is probably the very best reference in existence to try to figure out what that cutting is. We have some very good images. Replacements gave us permission to do a lot of their line drawings, which are much easier to see than even a photograph. So check that out. Unidentified rock crystal etchings, copper wheel etchings, early cuttings, named plate etchings. So let's do an easy one. These are alphabetical if you haven't noticed. So what page do you think I might find Rose Point? Toward the end, let's try 7. Rose, 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 Chance, Rosemary, Rose Point. So you can see a lot of roses. Notice this, the link at the bottom, view full album. So if you want to see everything on the website that was done or available in Rose Point, click on that link. It will take you directly to 48 wonderful pages of Rose Point. So if there's a crystal 3500 goblet and a carmine golden crusted 3500 goblet, and all of the possibilities. So once you find out what it is, for example, if you have a 3106 royal blue golden crusted, no, I'm making that up. Please let Grant know. Yeah. Yeah. And we do that also for all the other etchings. And these are named etchings. Not to be confused with what? Numbered etchings. And to further confuse things, some numbered etchings also have names, but not all. And for example, if you wanted to see the great Click Full album, and it will tell you that less than a page. So that tells you something a little bit, what was available, what wasn't available, how popular the line was, etc. But you can see there's some pretty nice things. And if you, for example, click on that, again, you will get the larger image. So you can study it and say, no, that's not mine. I have the platinum etching, or platinum decoration, or blue enamel, or whatever. Questions so far? Then we come to my favorite category, unspecified plate etchings. And these are what? All etchings that we don't know what the number is, and we don't know what the name is. So if you have something really weird, for example, if it has 2 cows in it, you can find it. So, oh yeah, I've got a punch bowl in that. Now, notice this name has a parentheses around it. That means that's a name Larry made up. Really. It's not an official Cambridge name by any stretch of the imagination. But if you would donate $1,000 to the National Cambridge Collectors, it will be officially named. No, I'm making that part up too. Let me tell you, the board would seriously consider that offer. Yeah. Question? Ralph is observing the rules.
Okay, a lot of etchings are accredited to various artists. Are they linked on your software?
Some of them are. If we know, for example, what the etching artist was, it's included. Not all. Our first emphasis was to get things on the website. Now what we're doing is going back and adding additional information. So this will be an ongoing process. There's, it's always a struggle. How much verbiage can we have and have it make sense? So.
Can I search the artist's name?
Yes, certainly. Yep. You can search for anything you want to. Also, in addition to, I'm sorry, we'll pause for a question.
I was gonna say. Okay, if you're looking for an etching, I forgot what I was going to say. Someone take the microphone.
We'll think of it later. Yep. And hold that question to the end. Okay. That'd be fine because I'll be up. Are created. Not on this website. If you go to the Crystal Ball or look at some of the videos, you may find that. That's a good question. The question was, can you search for how glass was made or how the etchings are created? No. Now you can probably find images of, for example, the Rose Point set that went through the different steps in the process because we have a photograph of that, but we don't have a lengthy explanation of how that happened. We could do that on one of our YouTube videos. Yes, Gary?
Yeah, I was curious. Did the person that was the engraver that did the etching plates, did they create the design by hand as far as drawing them in ink first?
Yes.
Okay, so then did they shoot a photograph of it?
No.
Then,
They gave that etching to the engraver.
well, the background's been etched away on the plates, so they had to have had the background blackened in to etch it.
Right. Yeah. We're off
They used-
topic.
they
We're off
used
topic
it?
a little bit. We're trying to
Then-
teach
then
people
they
how to
actually
search.
did it on the plate
Yeah.
itself.
We'd be happy to answer that question later. So I'll keep us on task. Mean teacher.
I wanted to add a comment that the early chroniclers of Depression glass were naming a lot of patterns that stick until today and that are reprinted in books. So it's not really a bad idea if you want to call it, 2 cows for Larry or something like that. It's not a bad idea to try to name the patterns because then people might pick up on it. And
Right. I will tell you some of the etchings are commonly known by collectors as a name, and I put that in there. But if it's not an official Cambridge name, then it's in parentheses.
and some of the early near cut we named also.
Right. For example, the Two Kid Flower Frog and the Drape Lady Flower Frog are not Cambridge names. They actually sent ballots out in a crystal ball and asked people what we thought we should name it and then voted. Yep.
Is it possible to search on this site for items that were made sporadically? A guy comes to work on a Monday morning and he decides to do something in different
The
color
special
or
articles
different,
or
yeah,
special orders.
yeah.
If we know about it, then it is
There's
on the site.
There's a place that's on here that we can
It's
find.
not specifically separated, no.
Okay.
Okay. In the interest of time, let's move along a little bit. The other thing you might want to search for commonly are identified decorates and unspecified decorates. Unspecified, you'll find things like the skier, for example, and some of the other things. We're not going to tell you the difference today, what the difference is between an etching and a decorate. It's a different process. But if you have enamel tumblers, for example, or other enameled items, they are a decorate if Cambridge did it. The other maddening thing to collectors sometimes is companies bought Cambridge blanks, and then they would decorate it, hand painting, silver, other processes. So we have some of those things. For example, Wallace Sterling added sterling feet, rims, etc. to Rose Point. We have photos of those. If you search for Wallace Stirling, those items will come up. But we identify that it was not a Cambridge etching. So this etching right here, the official name is D/1007 plus D/1008. Not something that rolls right off your tongue, right? So a lot of collectors call this lace. And I'm not suggesting, that you can call it whatever you want, actually. But if you want to communicate with collectors on what you're looking for, this may be a way to do it. So we have different schools and so forth. I won't pull up that unmentioned school from a little further east. But it is. Michigan is on there. I'll probably get run out of town now. Okay. You got to have a little fun now, Okay. Are there questions thus far? So now we're going to put all this knowledge to test. We have our first item. I want you to search and tell me what it is. Any ideas? Dolphin? This is one case that if you search for dolphin, if you spell it correctly, it's DOLPHIN, we will get the correct answer. So what number is this? 109. And then what? So for example, if you had this item and you were going to include it in the auction, when you send your list to Will and Bev, you'll put it's a candlestick, right? Now, what would really help Will and Bev out is if you said, I have a pair of amber number 109, 9.5-inch dolphin candlestick, comma, cast foot. Is there a difference with a cast foot? Well, certainly it makes a difference because it's not the normal domed foot. Seriously. Grant agrees with me. Okay.
Yeah, what's the difference between the square foot, more of a square foot on it? Hello? I say, what's the difference between the square foot?
There's a square foot.
No, look, yeah, I guess
Seashell. Yep.
Okay.
Number 50. Item number 2. Is that an animal? Yes. So this is a test. If Lynn does not have this in his presentation, you say, I believe you're incomplete on your animals. Okay, so what should we search for? Being the lazy person that I am, I'm going to search for C, S-E-A, space, center. Because I kind of knew it was seashell. Kind of looks like a seashell. Now, could you search for seashell? You betcha. There it is. Seashell, number 42, 8-inch flower center in Crown Tuscan. It's pretty easy, right? All right. Next. Next. This one should be easy as well, right? You might not be able to see that all that well. It's a horse. Rocking horse. This young lady got it. Let's try that. Rocking horse. No image. Let's try horse. There it is. Because Cambridge decided to call this not rocking horse, they started to call it hobby horse candy bottle. Now, a lot of people like to search for candy containers. Cambridge never called them candy containers. They call them candy bottles. And they would be listed under what category? It's a test. Toy. Yeah, you'll remember that, right? Yeah, if you look for it a million times. Next item, please. I'll give you a clue. It's a pink. What is it? If you just looked at it, what do you think it is? Commonly. Jar. Jar. And it has a kind of a quilted design on the bottom. Does that line ring a bell at all? Could be Mount Vernon. Let's try searching for jar. Oh, 21 pages. Yeah. Let me try something else. Pink jar. Yep. Well, that didn't work. I found the Yardley jars. I know this is Stratford. Just by experience. Vicky told me. Oh, I forgot it. I forgot. You have to spell it correctly. And voila. I put in Stratford jar. But this would be probably one you'd have to search for a while. This says Stratford 75 7.5 ounce pickle jar. And it's peach blow. That's why pink wasn't working. What's the next one? Oh, Vanna. Now, in this case, looking at it, what do you think big general category it probably falls in? Footed bowl. Let's go to general lines and shapes. How about, do you think it's near cut? Let's go to near cut. And if we look at the design, there's only 3 pages here. So it look like that? It's pretty close. Let's view full album. And so it have 3 feet? All right. A 4022/64 10-inch 3-footed apple or fruit bowl cut chrysanthemum. Not exactly it. Back. Yeah, it flares in. Good eye. Ah. 3-footed rose bowl. That's better. Now, we won't get into shapes a whole lot, but Cambridge made a lot of things out of the same mold, and then they would hand manipulate it, curved in, curved out, ruffled, all kinds of things. So, again, you have to do a little bit diligent searching, which is why the differences in dimensions often too, because it's hand finished. Next one. What's it look like? Looks like a cornucopia to me. Well, that didn't work. This one is a little bit different. I don't know if any of you have seen this or not. It actually has a hole and the back of it's flat. So it's designed to hang on a hook or nail. And it's a 1631 wall pocket vase. If you looked up wall pocket, it would show up. Yep. And I believe we have one more left, that little vase. Do you think that's taller than 12 inches? Let's go to album list. General lines and shapes. General shapes. Vases are probably toward the end. Other vases over 10 inch. I only have 8 pages, so I will scan through there. Yep, because I can't remember anything. That looks like it, yes? A 1555 20-inch vase. So is that for long-stemmed roses? Put water in it? Okay. Any questions? You have to be live with
And I
Memorex.
hold it just like this here, just like that. I think I did something good then, huh? Okay, when you were at the advertising, something just popped into my brain. What about the stickers that they put on the glass? Do you have that in there?
Yes, ma'am. If you'd have been paying attention at the beginning of the talk,
I wasn't here.
let's review that again, class.
But the question is, does it have like the year that they were used on it?
Well, you guys want every stinking piece of information. Yes, it does. I'm being facetious. Yeah, it will tell you the years that those different stickers were made. So, for example, on that vase, there is a paper sticker that looks a lot like this one. And the foil stickers are down here, 1937 and 1958. Okay?
And a number of these things, the web page comes up like this, but if you click on one of the images, even more information may come up, along with a lot of narrative.
Ooh. So hopefully you've learned a little bit this afternoon. If you have additional questions, feel free to ask any of us. We'll be happy to help you out. And like I said, if you find something that's confusing on the website, send it to me also, and I'll help you.